Well, however bad you think the housing market is, it is even worse for builders. Lennar is spending around $55,000 in incentives per home. At the peak of this in 2022, there was literally no inventory in Nashville. I mean, we're talking like maybe 2 weeks supply in Nashville in 2022. The margins for new builds were almost 30%. I don't think they've ever made that much per new build. Now they're basically been cut in half. If we look at their average sell price, net of incentives, we're down almost 25% from where they were in 2022. Now, this is kind of what I expected for the broader housing market. So what's happening to Lennar is actually what I thought would have happened to the housing market. Well, let's take a look at Nashville and see if we can see if there is a big difference between what is happening in new builds and what is happening in the overall market. New construction slice of Nashville home sales just hit a 7-year low. What happened? For the past 3 years, Nashville sales have been kind of plateaued, or I should say troughed, in 27,000 to 30,000 single-family homes every year. So what we're seeing is market share is dropping. So where we were at almost 30% in 2024, we're now at about 25%. Now think about that. If you have 30,000 houses selling every year and you go from a 30% market share to a 25% market share, that's 1,500 houses that haven't sold. If we look at active inventory among new builds in the single family space, there's 2,400. Can you imagine 1,500 more sales this year than last? That's not happening. Why? It's also important that you realize they are simply selling fewer homes. Here we are in the latter part of June. The snapshot I took for the past month, this is like a monthly pace that I take snapshots of. It is now at a 4-year low, lower than 25, 24, and 23. And so it's sputtering. It's sputtering. New construction is sputtering. And what's happening is that people that are existing or living in their homes and they're selling are selling more successfully. In fact, it's up almost 10% from where it was in 2023. By the way, if one of your theories is that existing homes are beating new builds because prices are going down, the median price per foot is flat. This is price per foot, so it's normalized. It's not even the median sales price. Makes me think that it's something else. So we have resale closings rebounding, while new builds, in terms of volume, they've dropped almost 17% from where they were in 2023. That is a ginormous drop. What is happening in the new build space? They're only a microcosm, about 25% of Nashville's housing market. And right now, what they are experiencing is very different than what an existing resale home is experiencing. I'd love to hear your perspective on why you think that is. Feel free to drop it in the comments. The median price is up $505 from $478. This is, again, some of that K-shape that we're seeing and some of that median price shoot up that I've been talking about. You see it even in the new builds. Now, when we look at new build price per foot, it's basically flat from where it was last year, and it kind of runs in a range that's been very flat for 4 years. Now, the other thing is are we seeing shrinkflation? I thought we might be seeing shrinkflation in the housing market. The truth is that what is closing has grown, but the listings are about the size they've been for the past several years, which is about 2,500 square feet. I thought that was interesting. But what has changed, lot size in 2022 was much larger than where it is today, much larger. Active listing lot size was almost 1/3 of an acre in 2022 listed. Now it's down to 0.22, and the median sold just over 1/4 of an acre. Now it's down to 0.2. The lot size are shrinking as the home size is increasing. I would love to hear what you think about that. I think lot size shrinking has a lot to do with people passing on new builds. That's just from the buyers that I talk to. They think about their kids or their dogs playing, and they just can't get past these small lots. Builders seem to price the majority of builds in the 300 to 750 range. Now, this makes sense because this is right around where the median is and where the vast majority of home sales are. However, what we are seeing is demand growth on the ends. So under 300 and over $1 million is where the most demand growth year over year is. And because of that, if builders aren't in those price points nearly as much, they will lose market share. There's not as many options in those price bands. I think this is interesting because I think this is a driver that doesn't have to do with quality or location. And by the way, new construction leans heavier into FHA buyers. This is one of the reasons that not a huge fan of a lot of new build neighborhoods. FHA buyers are extremely risky. They usually can barely afford their monthly payment. And if they realize, and when they realize they can't afford their monthly payment, they cannot sell it because they're in a neighborhood where home values are dropping. They have zero equity. And then they can't rent it because they're paying a monthly payment that's probably $1,000 more than what it would rent for. And they are going to foreclose. If there's a foreclosure crisis, it's going to be among FHA buyers in these new build neighborhoods. By far the largest single family risk in not just greater Nashville, but nationally, which by the way, it's why I put on my website, a lot of people have asked me, why do you put, you must be a cash heavy buyer on your website? And it's not because I don't want to help first time home buyers or people that have less down payment. It's because let's say you put 3-5% down on that house. You're going to pay mortgage insurance on top of a larger loan. Your mortgage payment's going to be much higher than your rent. You cannot rent your house out if you had to move, and you cannot sell it without taking a loss. Either way, you're going to be writing a check. If there's any weakness in the housing market, this is where it is, which by the way, kind of hurts builders' reputations, right? I mean, this is part of the reason I think they're losing market share. It's because these stories are now getting out. They sold to buyers that couldn't afford it and put them in houses that are losing home value. That's kind of a problem. I mean, if you're buying in a Lennar neighborhood, you have to ask yourself, are prices going to keep going down because they're continuing to lower and they're continuing to give more incentive? And that's where I think, the new build brand does lose buyers. And the problem is that it hurts good builders. There are good builders out there, but D.R. Horton, Pulte, Lennar, they actually have increased their reserves for construction defect claims 57%, all the way up to $1.1 billion. Now, this is according to a Wall Street Journal report. It just tells you that the quality is an issue. What do you think is causing builders to continue to lose demand? And how do you think this is going to shape Nashville? People are like, well, but there's all these existing homes that have larger lots. They're actually in better locations because they're older and they were in better locations when they were built. I want to hear from you. You tell me, what is driving the new build narrative? Do you think it's a reflection of where the housing market is going, or is it a completely different experience? And with that, I hope you have a great rest of the day. I look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Thanks for watching.